Yo, what is up, guys? It's your girl Bex, and welcome back to the race rundown following on from the 2026 Barcelona Grand Prix. How is everyone? What a hectic weekend that was. Let's just run straight into it, shall we? So, George had a fantastic start with the top three remaining the same. And I have here the McLaren Barcelona livery. Not too sure how I felt about it. I think it looked cool, but at the same time, was it really necessary? Anyway, Charles up 3 spaces before the end of lap 1 with Bortoleto running wide into the gravel. Lap 5, Russell was 2.5 seconds ahead of the pack, with Hadjar nearly wiping out Charles on the race start. Honestly terrifying to watch, I won't lie. Problem with the gearbox for Stroll, who was out on lap 6. Leclerc versus Piastri, and that didn't take long with Charles going around the outside. Oscar struggling to keep his car in a straight line, along with a lot of the other people on the track this weekend. There seemed to be a lot of struggling with tyres and keeping the cars on track. Behrman and Hadjar noted for forcing each other off the track. And me again, running notes here. God, that Alpine is really ugly. I've said it once, I'll say it again. That car is goddamn ugly. Anyway, lap 11, everybody struggling on tyres. Hamilton pits and comes out on hards, from softs to hards. Then, the rear right, slow for Lawson, who was also in the pits. Fernando Alonso overtake was absolutely stunning. A little bit of action there from the Aston Martins. We haven't seen them a lot this year so far, so that was really nice to see. Mercedes has then boxed Russell following the Ferrari undercut, with Max then pitting and Lewis coming out ahead of George. Fan-tabby dozy. Max then pits and Lewis comes out ahead of all the traffic, thank God. Lap 14, Lando is in and it was spectacularly fast with a 2.2 second stop. George is then pissed, having a go over the radio, basically saying, next time you're going to pit me, can you tell me first? I've got here, stop being such a fuckhead, you're not Lewis Hamilton. He winds me up. George winds me up. He's too big for his boots and yeah, he needs to be put down a peg. Lap 21, Lewis is pulling out some absolute scorchers when it comes to fastest laps, with George complaining over the radio yet again of his car being unbalanced at the front on lap 27. Lewis pitting again for his second stop to put on some mediums. Then, Kimi, once again doing the absolute God's work in overtaking George Russell and showing why he is significantly a better driver than Woody from Toy Story. Being outdone by somebody who's only 19 and who is also leading the championship by a whopping 66 points. Moving on. Lap 36, George is then told to pit that lap, with Russell going past Leclerc on lap 40. Lap 40 is a yellow flag with Alonso on the grass in front of his home grandstand. Absolutely brutal, with a virtual safety car. And lap 41 with Lewis having a cheeky pit stop. It couldn't have worked out better for Ferrari this weekend, with Lewis's amazing driving to couple just the pure luck that they managed to gain from this. So Lewis pits under the virtual safety car on lap 41, comes out just as the virtual safety car's ending and maintains a track position. An absolute masterclass from him and the team there. Track limits for Kimi, which as we all know resulted in a 5-second post-race penalty, which he was already out anyway, so it didn't really matter. Lap 51, Hülkenberg, Alonso, Stroll and Bottas all out. Lap 61, we're fast forwarding a little bit here. Kimi absolutely demolishes George Russell, goes round him as always and shows him why he is the better driver on that team. But unfortunately, for all those that were watching along, same as I did, the absolute shock of Kimi's engine absolutely going on lap 62. So that was very short-lived with a yellow flag on lap 63. Leclerc also then loses the power steering, goes off into the gravel and is out of the race as well, with a virtual safety car out on lap 63 and Behrman also out as well. Then, the moment we've all been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen, 686 days have passed since our guy, Team LH rejoice, Lewis Hamilton wins the Barcelona Grand Prix. We've waited 686 days But my God, it was worth it. It was worth it. Even me, who is not a member of Team LH, was gassed for him. It's nice to see him back on that top step, and it's nice to see him back in his stride yet again. An all-British podium for the first time since 1968, with Lewis on the top step, George in second, and the current reigning world champion, Mr. Lando Norris, in third. I liked Lewis's little shout out he did at the end, basically saying thank you for the fans to reminding me who I am. And, you know, you could tell that that particular race win meant a lot to him. And it meant a lot to me watching it as well. I was tearing up a little bit thinking, I'm not even a Lewis fan and this is getting to me. So the GOAT is back, ladies and gentlemen. Could we see Forza Ferrari for the remainder of the season? Because it's still very early days catching up with Mercedes. I think if they had a more dominant engine, that could be the case, but we will have to see. Again, it's still early days. We have till December, ladies and gentlemen. It's only June. We have another 6 months. Anything can change, okay? On the podium, fast forward a bit, Lewis is on the podium. He throws the trophy in the air, gives me a goddamn heart attack. I was like, deja vu. Me and the McLaren fans, deja vu. I've seen this place before, and the trophy just breaks. No, he caught it and it was fine. But I was scared there for a minute. And then Lando comes along with the champers all over his head, just to give him a welcome back, buddy. And what a spectacular podium it was. So, that's the race, really. Then we've got the off-track news. And I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, for all of those that don't want to hear about Kim Kardashian. We have yet another Kim Kardashian heavy week this week. I mentioned last week about her taking Kimmy's towel at the end of the race. She, in true classy Kim Kardashian style, sent him an embroidered towel with a pink ribbon on it saying to Kimmy from Kim. I thought that was hilarious. With the amount of backlash she got from that, I thought that was really funny. And obviously the Mercedes team gave a little bit of a dig towards her, quite rightly so, because social media engagement, let's fucking go. That was class from the social media team. I'd have done the exact same thing. So fair play to them. And for her to clap back in such a spectacular way, hats off to her as well. I really hope her and Lewis go the distance, because that's unreal. That is absolutely unreal clapback from her. Love that. Welcome to the track, Kim, and happy to see you happy, Sir Lewis Hamilton. So, this is where the Kim Kardashian news continues. Lewis was making a phone call following on from the race, and there's much speculation about who that phone call was with. Depending on who you listen to, some people are saying it was his mum, and other people are saying it was obviously Kim. Kim and Chloe were both watching the race at home, so clearly, I personally think he probably called both of them, because why wouldn't you want to talk to your girlfriend and your mum after your first win in over 2 years? Why wouldn't you want to call them? So whoever he called, and whatever the response was, I'm glad. So Lewis has got a few more years at Ferrari. Leclerc's just signed back on. Hopefully he'll have a bit of a stronger run in the next couple of years. I feel like, without pushing it too much, I feel like Ferrari are prioritising Lewis, which could eventually upset Leclerc. I doubt it, because I feel like they're trying to be pretty even with the both of them. But I feel like we could potentially have the first driver conundrum that us McLaren fans are all too familiar with down at Ferrari very, very soon. But we will have to keep our eyes peeled on that. There isn't really a lot else off-track news-wise. I feel like all of the rumours of Lewis's retirement have now been squished, considering he's just started winning races. That all went very, very quiet all of a sudden. And I personally don't think... I just don't think he's going to retire yet. I really don't. Okay, so another thing that happened that I want to touch on was the unusual reason for Hülkenberg's retirement, which was gravel flicking up onto the fire safety switch and causing the car itself to turn off. Causing it to trigger a shutdown, which is a crazy reason, but that is one of the reasons that we found post-race. And other than the Ferrari win, there's not a lot of news going on. Obviously, there's the usual of Verstappen. Is he going to leave Red Bull to go to Mercedes? There's all these rumours about they need to work harder, they need to do better as a team, blah, blah, blah. I think personally at the moment, since the exit of Horner, Red Bull should be doing the utmost to try and recover. I feel like Horner began to bring their team into disrepute. There was too many team changes, and I feel like they need to just regroup. And I feel like they could be back next year because, after any structural changes like that, it's going to be difficult to regroup after that. And for any team, right? Not even just Red Bull, for any team. If it was to happen at McLaren, it would be the same. If it was to happen at Ferrari, it would be the same. So I think right now, the last thing they need to focus on is winning races. Obviously, that's the goal of F1, but I feel like they should pull back a little bit and regroup. I feel like Aston Martin are having to do the exact same thing because their car was a steaming pile of dog shite. It still kind of is, but they're getting there. They're actually being able to complete some races, which is good. And I feel like they've just come to the conclusion that it's the first year with a newie car, kind of, and they need to focus on making the car the best it can be, and right now it is not that. The same with Cadillac. Obviously, they're new to the grid. They're taking their time learning about the sport, obviously coming in as newbies and building the car from the bottom up with their own engines, etc., etc. So I feel like Red Bull should take a leaf out of their books and just regroup. Take the time, do the learning, and come back stronger. I feel like every team at one point has had to do that. Mercedes have definitely done that once during Lewis's tenure and one afterwards. Jesus, McLaren have done it multiple times. There was years of us not winning. Williams, another prime example, years of them not winning anything, and we're finally seeing them in the points. Fantastic. Haas, the same thing. Sometimes it's either the race principles or just something internally that just isn't clicking, and at that point you take a step back just to try and figure out what it actually is that is causing the problem. And I think that's what should be looked at. I feel like that's what they should be focusing on. So, with that being said, there's not really a lot else to talk about. Lando in the points again, fantastic, but that's it really. So, the next race we have is in Austria, which I always love Austria. I think it's one of the highlights of the calendar. So, the fact that we have that and then we have Silverstone afterwards, fantastic. Love it. We do love a bit of Silverstone. I wish I was there this year, but I'm not because I bought my house. So there will be no Silverstone this year. There might be next year. It depends if I win the lottery. No, I'm joking. I'm going to try and get to a race at some point. But as it stands at the moment, 26th to the 28th of June is Austria. We're in for a good one. Who knows who will win? Honestly, there's so many DNFs over the last few races since we came back from our little gap. So thank you very much, Trumpy, for giving us a month off, even though we didn't fucking want it. But whatever. There's been so many DNFs since then. It's anyone's game at this point. It's anyone's game. So, with Antonelli still leading the championship by quite a margin, I've been your girl Bex. This has been the Race Rundown, and I'll catch you in Austria. Peace.